Thanks so much for joining us. In Venezuela, a frantic search for survivors continues after last week's devastating back-to-back earthquakes. A strong aftershock jolted Venezuela early Monday as civilians and emergency responders kept combing through the ruins of fallen buildings for survivors.
Fuerte, fuerte pero pa'lante. Hay que tener fe. Sin comer, sin dormir. Pero aquí estamos. Hasta conseguir hasta lo último que estamos buscando.
No se pierde.
Jamás. Aquí estoy, dijeron que habían con vida y subí corriendo. Yo tengo fe. Hasta que no vea el cuerpo, tengo fe.
Aló, ¿me escucha?
Ella recibía llamadas y el teléfono le sonaba y ella alcanzó a responder. Ayer como a las 2 de la mañana.
Despite a death toll of more than 1,400, survivors have been located. Venezuela's president has reported a 21-year-old man being rescued after being tracked for 106 hours. That's 4.5 days. And a 60-year-old woman was rescued after being trapped for 86 hours. Tens of thousands are still missing. A tragedy off the west coast of Canada has left 6 people dead. The RCMP says 4 men and 2 women, are presumed to have drowned following the sinking of a fishing charter boat off of Richmond, BC on Sunday. Richmond Mounties say 2 survivors, a man and a woman, are in critical condition, while another man and woman have been discharged from hospital. Mounties say despite extensive multi-agency search efforts conducted yesterday, the missing 6 are presumed to have drowned. The search has been suspended and efforts have now shifted to recovery. Canada's former chief trade negotiator says he doesn't expect Ottawa to reach a tariff deal with Washington before the U.S. midterm elections. Speaking at an event for BMO clients, Steve Verheuel says the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement still has value for the United States.
I don't think there's been anything close to a good deal on the table so far. There were discussions last year, and a number of other countries reached agreement with the U.S., but those agreements are unlikely to stand the test of time over a period because they're not particularly solid agreements. So I don't think we'll see an outcome in the short term necessarily. There's a bit of a window around the U.S. midterms where the U.S. administration may be looking for some kind of win. If that happens, there's a possibility for it to come together. But I think it's more likely that the discussions will continue beyond the midterms and possibly even into next year.
Financial analysts say a new CUSMA will not fix Canada's structurally weaker economy. They say Canada will need much better foreign investment policy to drive investment capital to Canada. A controversial pro-separatist billboard in the southern Alberta town of Taber, which was ordered to remove the billboard, was the focal point for a weekend rally calling for Alberta independence. About 150 people braved strong winds and torrential rain on Sunday to take part in the protest organized by the group Cruise to Alberta Independence.
I kind of sparked this inadvertently with a billboard, just trying to make a mark and get the campaign going, and it turned into a symbol, I think, for people to push back against those who are trying to cancel the messaging throughout this campaign. People were pretty upset. They really were. We've been seeing this a bit all over. I mean, people want to have a discussion. They want to have a campaign, and there really seems to be a lot of people saying we shouldn't even be allowed to talk about it. So they took this as an opportunity, I think, to come out and just say, no, we're going to come out, we're going to express ourselves, and as I said, this inadvertently turned into a symbolic place for it. Well, the sign stayed up till the end. We got as much exposure as we ever could have hoped for, and I think we stayed on our messaging. You know, we aren't angry, we aren't embittered. We're trying to have a conversation about, again, being pro-Alberta and sending a message to Ottawa.
For the freedom for
Alberta, for our grandchildren. I've actually believed in this since the 80s, since the first Trudeau. And right now, you know, my grandchildren can't get a job. There are kids that can't get buy a home. They'll never own a home. This is not the Canada we signed up for. And the debt just keeps getting higher, and they just keep spending like crazy. And, you know, as much as people want to say this is about a pipeline, this is not about a pipeline at all. This is about our way of life. And we're losing it, and we don't want to.
And there was a partial win for Alberta Separatists Monday in court. An appeals court judge in Alberta has ruled signatures on a separatist referendum petition can be counted and verified. This comes after the petition was effectively thrown out by a lower court last month, days after the separatist group handed in their sheets to Elections Alberta. Justice Alice Woolley ruled that not verifying the signatures would create more problems should the group or province decide to successfully appeal the May decision. Woolley's ruling also maintains that their preferred binding referendum question cannot be added to the October 19th referendum until the appeals process plays out. The Canadian Medical Association is issuing a warning about bat bites and rabies. The latest issue of the Medical Association's journal tells the story of a boy in Ontario who was bitten by a bat in 2024.
Infectious disease doctors have published a case report in the Canadian Medical Association Journal about an 11-year-old boy who woke up with a bat on his face at a Northern Ontario cottage in the summer of 2024. The boy's parents didn't see any bite or scratch marks, so they did not take him to see a doctor at the time. He didn't show any symptoms until almost 3 weeks later, when he developed numbness and swelling on the right side of his face. His neurological condition continued to deteriorate in hospital, and he died.
It was important to us and to the family to take the opportunity to, find learning experiences and lessons that we could take from his case to try and help, spread awareness. It's a rare infection, but it exists in animals like bats that we do see not infrequently. And so it's important to understand how we can reduce the risk of that infection getting into humans. If the rabies virus gets into under the skin or in what we call the mucous membranes of a human, it can establish an infection. And it's particularly in the nerves, first in the nerves around where the bite or the exposure happens. And then from there, it can make its way into the spinal cord and the brain. And that's where it causes a severe infection that ultimately leads to death. And sometimes the bite or the scratch with a bat is actually not visible. It's so small that we sometimes don't see it. So this is why it's really important for us to understand that, like, any contact with a bat, even if we don't have a visible bite or a scratch, does constitute a high risk of potential rabies exposure.
Hummel says anytime a bat has touched human skin, that would be a reason to go and see your healthcare provider. The Alberta government is pumping more money into education to deal with complex classrooms. Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaides says the government is investing $100 million to add new complexity teams for grades 7 through 12. The funds will also allow school boards to hire more teachers, educational assistants, and specialized support staff.
$75 million is going to hire 221 complexity teams. So that distribution is still being finalized in terms of how many teams will go to which school divisions. And then the other $25 million, as I mentioned, is going to staff support, but there's also a bucket of that that's going specifically for rural and remote school divisions to help them bring some of that specialized staff to their community.
The grade 7 to 12 complexity teams will consist of one teacher and one assistant, with access to behavioral specialists, social workers, and other specialists. Emergency call services in our region have recently undergone a transition to a newly modernized next-generation 911 network. The Public Safety Communications Center at Lethbridge's Fire Station 1 has transitioned their call center from analog to a new IP network known as ESINet, in compliance with new CRTC guidelines. This means outgoing calls will be easier to locate and provide redundancy during outages and disruptions. The Communications Center is responsible for fire and police dispatch services for Lethbridge and 23 surrounding communities in southern Alberta.
So what this involves is no longer just receiving standard 911 calls on old legacy copper line. What this does is give the opportunity to potentially in the future receive data such as pictures, video, potentially increased or enhanced ability to locate the caller's location.
If you're out in the countryside somewhere, if you get a 500 meter radius versus a 5 meter radius, that's huge, right, in locating callers. So the idea is that the ESINet network and NextGen 911 will improve our location information.
The nationwide transition requires telecommunications providers to update their networks to accommodate by March 31st of next year. Calling 911 will be no different between now and until all networks are fully updated. Work continues to expand in the Whoop Up Drive and Scenic Drive interchange, resulting in its first round of road closures. Beginning Tuesday, the Scenic Drive on-ramp from 6th Avenue South will close alongside the northbound Scenic Drive North right lane turn to 5th Avenue. Drivers will be detoured north onto 5th Street South. Once the on-ramp reopens, the city will also permanently shut down the left turnoff to Scenic Drive South from 6th Avenue as a safety review has deemed the turn as unsafe. Crews continue to work on the first phase of adding a second lane to the Whoop Up Drive West on-ramp from Scenic Drive South. The project in its entirety is scheduled for completion in November. It's not too early to start thinking about Christmas, at least not for the Lethbridge nonprofit organizations who have already begun preparing months in advance to ensure less fortunate families can enjoy the holiday season. The multi-agency Christmas Hope Partnership is launching its annual campaign with a Christmas in July gift card campaign, encouraging community members to donate gift cards throughout the month of July to help support families in need this Christmas.
Having an early campaign in the summertime to collect gift cards, we're hoping is going to help us out. And so we're looking for community members to give a gift card to their partner of choice, whether it's grocery gift cards or gift cards so that we can use to purchase gifts, or even those partial gift cards that are maybe not all used up, but could be used to buy some of those supplies that we need. It is never too late to give. And so while we're launching the Christmas in July gift card campaign and hoping that we'll get some momentum over the summer, people can continue to give gift cards year round.
We are forecasting that we will see an increase for the Christmas hamper program when it comes. So it's sad that we do have that sort of need in our community. However, it's nice that our community does come to the table and supports us.
So far, we've just seen the need definitely increasing throughout the year. This year more so than last year. Our stats on this half of the year already are significantly higher for clothing, food, hygiene, and just supports in general than we saw in the first half of last year. So we're definitely anticipating for Shop of Wonders to be that again, with just the rising increases of everything, food, rent, utilities, gas, everything. It's just definitely going to put that extra strain on families. So I would anticipate that we would even potentially see families that have never accessed.
The Christmas Hope Partnership supported more than 8,800 individuals in Lethbridge and surrounding areas during the 2025 holiday season. And it looks funny to see those hats this time of year. One of Canada's oldest rodeos is preparing to buck back into action. The 124th Raymond Stampede returns Canada Day week with top rodeo professionals from across North America. Organizers say the rodeo, which began in 1902, remains a cornerstone of the community.
Not a lot of stuff new comes to town. We have the parade, we have the Stampede. New things at the Stampede are we're trying to build more of a trade show out of it. We got probably 10 trade show booths coming, 4 food trucks, but we're just going to have the traditional Stampede. I believe we were just over 300 last year. We're over 400 competitors this year. And I'm going through the list and looking at the list, and we've got even more world champions coming this year and Canadian champions this year than we've had in the past. So the lineups for both days, June 30th and July 1st, are very strong lineups. You know, the last 2 years we've got 4 inches of rain like a day before the rodeo. The Stampede takes place. That's our biggest obstacle. And the obstacle of having to move from the old location to this new location has had its challenges too, but we just keep moving forward.
The rodeo kicks off Tuesday at 6 p.m. and then on Canada Day, the action begins at 3 p.m. Canadian soccer fans are still buzzing with excitement after Canada advanced to the round of 16 at the World Cup on Sunday. Canada beat South Africa 1-0 in stoppage time at Los Angeles Stadium. Steven Estacio scored the win in the 92nd minute. Not to overstate things, but Estacio became the name and face that soccer fans will remember forever, taking Canadian soccer to a place it's never been before. And as you might expect, fans across the country were ecstatic.
Extra time, scoring. Yo, we knew we had it. It took a while. But as soon as Davies came in, it was over. It was all over. Amazing.
So good. So good. Energy is unmatched.
It's history, right? Like Canada definitely just made history going to the round of 16 in the World Cup. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime, honestly. But yeah, Canadian soccer is like getting a lot better, which is very warms my heart.
We're optimistic.
Yeah, I thought we were favored, but it was a tough game, the whole game. So to get the result in the end, huge! We moved on!
I mean, I'm from Canada as well, so I'll be cheering for them. So yeah, hey, happy regardless.
Respect to South Africa. They had a good game. They had a good game.
Canada will play either Morocco or the Netherlands on Saturday in Houston.
Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com. Western Canadian fields might be locked in a battle with excess moisture and delayed spraying right now, but our grain markets are facing a completely different kind of storm, pure volatility, and producers cannot afford to take their eyes off the ball. Right now, U.S. markets are pricing in heavy, record-trending corn yields, which is keeping a tight lid on nearby futures. But don't let that quiet screen fool you. Overseas extreme heat in Europe and drought in Australia are quietly tightening the global wheat pipeline. Analysts expect global fundamentals to wake up and start aggressively driving prices by Labor Day. Well, we can only hope. Add in a maxed out domestic oilseed crush and massive biofuel demand coming out of the US, and the stage is set for a sudden, unexplainable market spikes. Like I said, hopefully so. With input costs remaining stubbornly high, capturing these rapid swings will be the difference between profit and loss this season, potentially. Rumors of flash sales can trigger a rally overnight, meaning the window to capture value opens and closes in the blink of an eye. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with RealAgriculture.com.
A new survey of Canadian renters says affordability concerns far outweigh all other rental market challenges, even as prices fall. Around 70% of the nearly 1,200 respondents of the Rentals.ca poll identified high rent prices as the biggest obstacle in their housing search. The survey also highlighted a disconnect between renters' budgets and market realities. 42% of respondents reported a monthly rental budget of less than $1,500, while Canada's average asking rent currently exceeds $2,000 per month. A Danish home goods store is set to officially glide into Canada. Flying Tiger Copenhagen is opening its first Canadian store at the Eaton Centre in Toronto, with plans to expand from there. The Scandinavian retailer sells creative yet affordable items. Retail experts say there are plenty of competitors at the same price point, but if Flying Tiger can offer elevated and trendy items, shoppers could be tempted into feel-good buys.
Welcome to Flying Tiger Copenhagen, the very first store in Canada. We sell everything from toys gadgets, the office section that you're seeing here now, into home, kitchen, decor, and predominantly we have this huge seasonal collection that changes every month with 300 new products that come in every month. We price to be accessible on the market. We have over 1,800 products in store. 80% of the product range is priced at $10 and under, so we're super pleased with that. And we say a richer life doesn't cost a fortune.
There you go. And with that, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 156 points on the day to 34,823. The Dow was up 306 to 52,182. The S&P 500 was up 86 to 7440, and the Nasdaq was up 522 points to finish at 25,820. West Texas Intermediate oil was up $1.18 to $70.41 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 11 cents to $3.16 US. Gold was down $70.71 to $40.1630 US an ounce, and silver was down 48 cents to $59.16 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.03 per bushel. Barley is at $6.47. Canola is at $16.95. And corn is at $7.37 per bushel. Live cattle June contract was down 5 cents to $257.40. Feeder cattle August contract was down $2.37 to $367.47. Lean hogs July contract was up 90 cents to $93.82. And the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours at 70.40 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, an Alberta Separatist group is pleased with the latest court ruling of its referendum petition. State Free Alberta lawyer Jeffrey Rath calls today a great day in Alberta for democracy. An Alberta Court of Appeal judge says the petition's signatures can be counted and verified, but it can't go to voters until the appeals process plays out. Albertans will still vote October 19th on whether to start the process to hold a second binding referendum on leaving Confederation. Statistics Canada recently pointed out that the country is in a technical recession, and one of the reasons for this is cuts to immigration. Riley Donovan, freelance journalist and founder of the Dominion Review, shares the significance of this connection and what it means for Canada's economy. That is coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content and poll questions.